In today's episode, I'm going to share my experience of riding out Hurricane Beryl on the island of Grenada, which was the first country that was hit by the hurricane. And one of our islands, we are a nation of three islands, took the eye of the storm. And my goal is to help you understand and learn more about human design through the experience that I'm going to share through my own human design. This is not like a regular episode, so if you are brand new to my podcast, this is going to be very different from some of the other episodes. I really just wanted to share my experience and help you understand what this might be like for somebody with my design. Now, I'm going to be going into some of the more surface level human design aspects, like my type and strategy, things of that nature. I'm also going to be covering deeper things like certain channels of mine, more advanced topics like some of my variables and things of that nature. So whatever level of human design you are at, I'll do my best to explain some of those things, but if you don't understand everything, that is completely okay. I still hope you get something out of the story. To start off, I am a 5/1 emotional manifesting generator. All of my centers are defined except for my head center, and I am split definition. I have a small split. My bridging gates are gate 30, gate 55, and gate 59. And if you don't know what that means, it's okay. I live in the country of Grenada, which is a small island nation composed of three islands in the southeastern Caribbean. We are the furthest southern tip of the Windward Islands, and I live in the south of the main island of Grenada. Just north of us is Carriacou, which unfortunately took the eye of the storm, and Petite Martinique, both of which are completely destroyed. They have been completely flattened. The north of Grenada was also pretty hard hit. Where I am in the very south, we got extremely lucky. We were not hit that hard. I personally don't have any damage in my home, some outside property damage, yes, but nothing inside. And most of the southern part of Grenada, when you drive around, yes, you see, some trees are down. There's definitely some damage. Clearly, there was an event here, but it's nothing terrible. So I just wanted to lead with that caveat. And in the episode, I'm going to share my experience of before the storm, preparing for the storm, during the actual storm, as well as the aftermath of the storm. So I do have a defined spleen, which is the center of its survival instinct, intuition. It is defined through the channel 2750 directly to my sacral center. So my sacral response is definitely also very much connected to my own intuition. This is a tribal channel, and that means it's very much concerned with its own community. It is part of the defense circuit, which very much is about the survival and the protection of one's community and one's loved ones. So this channel does play very much into my experience. I also have, as I mentioned, gate 30 is one of my bridging gates. Now, when you have a split definition in human design and a single split like I have, your strongest areas of conditioning tend to be those bridging gates, the gates that connect the two different islands of your design. And gate 30 is one of those for me. Now, gate 30 is a fear gate. It lives on the solar plexus, and this is the fear of the fates, the fear of what might happen in the future. I will also say that I have gate 28 defined in my incarnation cross. It is my unconscious earth, and gate 28, which lives on the spleen, another awareness center, another fear center, is the fear of death. Now, for me personally, this has never showed up for me so much as the actual fear of my own death. It has always showed up as the fear of my loved ones dying, of things that I love dying, areas, in this case, environments that I love dying. That is usually how I experience the fear of gate 20. I am a first line profile. I'm a 5/1. So I research a lot, and I do live in the Caribbean, which is hurricane prone. Now, I will say that I originally chose Grenada because it is below the hurricane belt. Obviously, that doesn't make it hurricane proof. There have been major hurricanes here. The last major one was in 2004, Hurricane Ivan, which very much devastated the island of Grenada where I live. And the previous major hurricane before that was 1950. So they happen, but they're not that common, not like further up north where people get hit, every couple of years. Now, of course, I was well aware, and I am well aware that during hurricane season, we could get hit by a hurricane. In my first line that loves to research, I also have fear motivation as part of my variables. And security is a very big thing for me. And I like to be prepared, and I like to have all of the information that I can have to be as prepared as possible. So during hurricane season, I am always, every day, I look at the National Hurricane Center website. I see what's going on, if there's any new systems forming, where they're going. I'm always very on top of that. So I knew that there was a tropical storm brewing. I knew that the track that they had forecast was going over Grenada. Usually they end up shifting north before they get here, but obviously not always. So that was kind of the beginning of it, as I was keeping very close track of this storm, checking in. And I'm also already always really prepared for hurricane season. I have tons of canned food, non-perishables, stocked up on water. Every hurricane season, I make sure that I'm prepared so I don't need to be in the store last minute buying up things that I've already stocked up. I will also say I have gate 39 defined in my chart, and gate 39 can be a little bit of a hoarder. And with having lived through the 2019 toilet paper COVID shortage in the US, I am always very much stocked up on toilet paper, which really came in handy in the aftermath, and I will get to that. So I was already stocked up. I was watching the storm, and the storm hit us on Monday, July 1st. I am recording this on Friday, July 5th. On Sunday, I woke up and I was terrified. I was probably the most scared that I've ever been. And I was also extremely emotional. Now, I do have emotional definition. I'm an emotional authority. The channel that defines my emotions is the 3740, the channel of community, which is also very concerned about its community. And I woke up, I was terrified. I really spent some time crying. I reached out to my loved ones, to my community, and let them know how I was feeling. I needed that support, people off island. And once I made it through that wave, that preparation would set in. The hurricane was coming. It was going to hit us the next day. It was pretty much guaranteed to hit Grenada, and it was time to prepare. So my sacral center just jumped right into action. I do have the 3420 unconscious defined, so very much also about self-empowerment and preservation in the now. I actually have 4 channels coming off my sacral, so there's a lot of activity that happens. And I immediately just started going into prepare mode, bagging up all of my valuables, putting them in, elevated places in my bathroom, which would likely, even with damage, be the driest place. And also considering, and I had been considering this, but where I was going to ride out the storm. Now, I was going to ride it out with my partner. That was the original plan. However, at my partner's house, the shelter that we would have to go into in the event of it getting really bad is fairly secure, but it's also small, and it would have to involve 3 adults, 2 dogs, his dog and my dog, and his cat. And his cat scares me almost as much as the hurricane. Not quite, but it's a scary cat, and it hates my dog. So upon further thought, like going into that, potentially into that situation, in a very stressful situation with 3 scared animals, 2 which really don't get along, did not seem like that was the best solution if there was another solution, which luckily there was. On my property, there is my apartment, there is my landlord's house, and there's another 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom apartment underneath his house. And the bathrooms in that apartment are completely free of any outside walls. They have no windows. They were probably the most secure place on the property to ride out the storm in the event that it got really bad. There was nobody in those apartments, and my landlord was going to be riding out the storm in there as well, and he said I could totally ride it out in there. So preparations continued. I moved everything that I needed, water, flashlights, candles, food, dog food, my dog's bed, all of that stuff down into that space. And of course, did some further research because this bathroom had a glass shower door and a mirror. And my further first-line research revealed that even without direct debris hit, like those things could shatter. So I also prepared that by wrapping them up in sheets, just making sure even in the event of something shattering, Orca, my dog, and I would be secure from being hit by the glass, or as secure as we can be. So that was the rest of the preparations of that day, plus continually checking up on the track of the storm on various weather apps and just preparing as much as I possibly can. The plan was to spend the night in that apartment. It had a bedroom. The storm was supposed to hit us early in the morning. We'd already be in a secure location. So I finished closing up everything in my apartment, barricading the doors, just moving everything valuable, and moved everything, including my dog, into the downstairs apartment to prepare for the next day. Now, that night I was feeling calmer. I wasn't as, like, that fear and that terror from the morning had kind of dissipated. Now, one of the things about the terror that came up for me is I have never been in a hurricane, but I have seen the aftermath of plenty of them. And obviously, with the Gate 28, the fear of death, the fear of potentially losing loved ones. I have a lot of tribal circuitry. Actually, I have a lot of all kinds of circuitry. I'm a fairly defined person and actually equally split between individual, tribal, and collective. But I do have a lot of tribal. I am very concerned about my community, my loved ones, wanting to protect them, wanting to make sure that they're safe. And this definitely came up in a lot of different instances during that time. One of the things that I was really afraid of was what were things going to look like the next day after the storm passed. I have seen so many, and of course this did happen to our northern islands, where everything is gone, everything is destroyed, all the vegetation is gone, all the beauty is gone. And I definitely spent that evening, that afternoon, the night before, just taking it all in, taking in how beautiful this island is. I love this country so much. It is so beautiful. And I really spent time taking that in. And of course, being concerned of, like, will this still be here tomorrow? And I took pictures and everything to remember it as it was before the storm. I went to sleep that night. I knew that the next day was going to be intense and getting sleep was going to be really important. I woke up early the next day. I kept tracking the storm. It did look like on different storm trackers, the part of Grenada I was in was definitely like right in the cone. Others, the part of Grenada I was in was just slightly below the cone, but the rest of Grenada and definitely our sister islands, Carriacou and Petite Martinique, were right in the cone. And it was looking like the eye was definitely heading for Carriacou, which of course was, on the one hand, I was feeling hopeful, like that it wasn't going to be as bad where I was, but on the other hand, so concerned for my community and the rest of this beautiful country where I live, that I love to call home. That was definitely there. I'm the kind of person that can't sit still. Like I mentioned, I have the 3420 unconscious. Like, sitting still is really hard for me. I like to move. I like to be busy. I love to work. I am a manifesting generator. And so that morning I figured, while I still have power, let me just get some work done. Let me distract myself a little bit. I'm also the left angle cross of distraction in my incarnation cross. So distraction sometimes really serves me. So I just did what I could. I knew I couldn't go outside. And finished up some last minute work stuff, made sure everything was completely charged and ready to go. As the storm set in, we did have power for a little while. The power did eventually go out. I do have data on my phone. That data worked for a while. I was in touch with loved ones in the US and other places that were continually checking in on me, as well as with other loved ones on the island, to see how everybody was doing. And again, with my first line and my fear motivation, really staying on top of the news, staying on top of what National Hurricane Center was saying, and continually checking the weather apps to see what was going on. That being said, it wasn't that bad down here. I don't think the winds where I was actually exceeded 40, 49, maybe 50 miles per hour. It was, obviously that's windy, but it's not 150 miles per hour. So the rest of the storm really wasn't that bad. Just heavy wind, heavy rain. I ended up going into the bathroom for a little while, hanging out with my dog. His bed was in there and he felt comfortable in there. But for most of it, I was able to just hang out in the bedroom. Once around, I don't know, I think it was around 3 p.m. rolled around. Clearly, the worst of it had passed us. The storm had moved westward. So I immediately came out and I checked for any and all damages. Nothing massive here. Our gate had fallen, like the arm was torn off the wall. Obviously some, trees and shrubs and stuff like that. My apartment did have some water in it, but it was nothing major. And I immediately moved into hurricane recovery mode and bringing things back. putting things back into the way that I wanted them to be, and keeping myself busy, keeping myself distracted, because I really felt like I needed to be busy. Checking in with all of my other loved ones, making sure everybody that I was connected with on the island was okay. Later that day, and it wasn't even, it's interesting how times fly, or things, time moves in weird ways during disasters. We knew Carriacou had gotten hit hard. We knew that I had passed over it. They didn't have any power. There wasn't anything coming out of Carriacou at that time. But by the time the next morning rolled around, we started seeing some footage from there, and how absolutely and completely devastated that island, and also Petite Martinique, the two other islands in this country, how devastated they were. All the stores here were closed, but there were boats going up from Grenada to Petite Martinique and Carriacou to deliver supplies, and they requested things that they needed. Now, luckily, my gate 39 likes to really stock up on things. So even though I couldn't go to the store and buy things for them, I had plenty of toilet paper, I had plenty of canned food, I had plenty of water. So I did what I could, got in my car and went to drop off whatever I could. Again, this being a lot of my tribal circuitry, my community, my channel of community, my defense circuit, which the defense circuit is small. It only has 4 gates. I have 3 of them. 2 of them, the 2750, I have to find twice. So I did what I could there. I also felt extremely emotional. My emotional wave, which is the tribal wave, was very much triggered, crying, seeing the images coming in, just feeling for the people, wanting to do what I could to help. And that first thing was just, give them what you can right now. Then immediately my first line started researching. I am a 512 practical solutions in times of crisis. Like, what can I do right now, given the circumstances and what is available? So I started getting online, getting on Facebook, seeing all of the different posts, the different places where people could contribute, including places, there's a lot of Grenadian diaspora in Toronto, Canada, and the UK, also in New York. So seeing the things people were posting, that there were collections for supplies and everything taken up in those countries, sharing those posts with people that I knew in those areas, or people that I knew that had family in those areas. I do also have Gate 8 to find, which can be like the marketer, and the 5th line, which is a messenger, really getting that information out there so that people could help and support. I also went to help support my partner's mother, who is elderly, to do what I can in my own community on that day. It was a very emotional day. There was just watching the footage come in was just absolutely heartbreaking, and continues to be heartbreaking. We're just doing what I could to support in the best way possible. The next day, as soon as grocery stores opened, went in, bought as much stuff as I could to send over there. And now, staying on top of what is going on, I plan on going up to the northern part of Grenada, which is also very hard hit, but because it is on the main island and wasn't as devastated as the other 2 islands, I do feel like it's not getting enough attention. There are people there that completely lost their homes as well. So I want to go up there this weekend to help support and do what I can do. I want to ask all of those of you that are listening, if you've made it to this part of the episode, please contribute in any way that you can. There are, and I know that there are so many crazy things happening in the world right now. And it is really hard to choose who you support and how you support them. And my plea to you is to find whatever is the most meaningful, the most important one to you, and do whatever it is that you can do. Whether that is donating money if you're able to do that, donating time, donating resources. I will put some links in the show notes, in the description, for where you can do that. If you're listening on Inside Timer, then I can't add any links. So I encourage you to just do your own research. The links I will post will be specifically for Grenada, but please do whatever you can to support those people in need. That is it for today. I hope you learned something about your own design if you share some of the aspects of my design, or what it is like to go through a disaster with the aspects of my design that I have shared. Thank you for listening.